Hi guys, welcome back to our Globe interviews. I am the host Starlight, and today we are in the Barcelona Avalanche Summit, and we have a very special guest with me, Pat from Oasis Pro Markets. Please welcome Pat.
Thank you very much, Starlight.
How are you today?
I'm terrific. It's a great day here in Barcelona.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you came into blockchain cryptos?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I'm an investment banker by background. So I used to run groups at Bear Stearns, JP Morgan, and at Credit Suisse First Boston. And I also ran capital markets. So I'm a true finance guy. And then about 4.5 years ago, I started looking into this thing called crypto. And I thought it didn't make any sense. And I was a skeptic. And the more I delved into it, the more I saw the real opportunities from a capital markets to blockchain. This is really before Defi really took off. It started making a lot of sense to me. So I partnered with the Maker Foundation, MakerDAO, and I took a role there. And at the same time, I was also running Oasis Pro Markets. And the basis of Oasis Pro Markets is to provide digital securities trading. We are starting in the US with an ATS, but digital cash like stablecoins DAI, tied to MakerDAO, USDC. And what it was really about real world assets moving into DeFi, which everyone's talking about today. But 3 years ago, no one was talking about. Yeah. So that's how we got here.
I have a really big feelings about how the crypto and blockchain is getting so popular today. Even my younger brother and my friends, they're all talking about this right now. Yeah.
Well, I'm a little older than you. And my peers are still very skeptical. Many of them even older than me compared to tulip mania. If you know tulip mania in the 1700s, when tulips became very expensive and it didn't make a lot of sense at the end of the day. So, but I am seeing a transition. So your younger brother and others, I think that whole generation is going to be very comfortable with crypto. They're already very comfortable with sharing their privacy data. I think it's going to become ubiquitous. So today we're talking about crypto as a new thing, and I think a decade it'll be, what do you mean it's a new thing? Everybody will be using it.
Yeah.
I do think what I'm seeing with the, let's say older generation is they're dabbling. So they're investing a little, not a lot of money, not a lot of a sizable amount of their wealth, but they're dabbling and they're beginning to understand and they're asking for advice. And it's just tremendously exciting.
Yeah, true. Okay, so now let's talk about your company, Oasis Pro Market. So what is the Oasis stand for, and what does your company do?
Thank you for asking. So Oasis Pro Markets we're a global company, but we're very focused on the US markets today because we have a very valuable asset in terms of licenses from the SEC and from FINRA. And what we're allowed to do is trade digital asset securities for digital cash. So digital cash is Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin, CBDCs when they become available, and stablecoins across the board. But the most popular are like DAI, USDC. Tether is out there as well. I'm not quite sure we're going to be working with Tether initially just because there's a bit of a cloud with that, but we'll see. And we can do atomic swaps. Like crypto, when you do a trade crypto to crypto, you can do an atomic swap. It's instantaneous, or almost instantaneous. We can do that as well. Now, we're in the box of regulation. We're regulation forward, we're compliance forward. And what that means is that, at least in the US, we're tied to the 33 and 34 Act rules, 1933, 1934, before anybody knew what crypto was. So we are tied to those rules, which is very, very difficult. but we're doing our best. And we're launching our primary at the end of this month, early April. We're launching secondary trading in June, July timeframe. Our focus is institutional and then eventually retail. But we're starting with the big firms, who run hundreds of millions or billions of dollars because similar to our earlier conversation about how crypto is becoming more mainstream, we think in the digital asset security space, you need the institutions to come over to offer it the credibility, and then the retail will follow. So a lot of people look at Robinhood and say, well, why don't you just do what Robinhood did, right? Eventually, maybe us or another firm will do exactly that in the digital asset security space. But what I say is the infrastructure is not in place yet for that. It is in place for normal stock trading. It is in place, frankly, for crypto to crypto. But crypto to digital asset securities is going to take some time. So that's what we do. That's in the United States. We're now branching out with partners to Singapore, UAE, EU, most likely through Germany. And we're in discussions with groups in the UK as well. So our concept is to have global listings. And so if you're listed with us in the United States, it's 24/7, 365. You can also, if you live in Southeast Asia, you can also trade there. And we're also looking at Japan as well, but that's further down the line. And that's our focus.
I know you're attending to the Barcelona Avalanche Summit, and how is everything as part of this big conference in this year?
It's a fantastic conference. It's the first conference Avalanche has ever done, which surprised me. There are multi-thousands of people here. I don't know the exact number. It's all enclosed, which is fantastic. Fantastic speakers across a variety of subjects, from digital asset securities, like what we're focused on, to NFTs, to gamification, to protocols, Avalanche. And Avalanche is a partner of ours, and we're very excited to be working with them. They've got a high quality team. They're moving to the institutional subnet space right now, which ties in very nicely to what we're doing. And I think it's been fantastic. And we were chatting earlier, post-COVID or wherever we are with COVID right now, the attendee, the attendance is phenomenal. The discussions we're having with people, we have a booth, we're speaking, and the reception's been fantastic. Actually, it's beyond my expectations.
Yeah, I came to this big conference as well. I can feel like all the people, they do really like good interactions with each others. And it's really nice to see each other in the same industry, like after 2 years, you know what I mean? Just like, it's so crazy. Yeah.
I completely agree. It's great. And everyone's friendly. Everyone's open.
Yeah.
It's
so many new faces.
Yep.
Like me. What are the elements that you think is important for you to run a company, and what the biggest challenge you have been faced before, like running your company?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, and it's learn through experience, but it's really about having a consistent vision and bringing in talent, surrounding yourself with very talented people. That's what I've learned, over time. But in regards to my role, is to make sure everyone's rowing in the same direction, from the crew analogy, and that everyone's focused on where you want to be at the end of the day. Be very supportive. But I view my most important role is to set the strategy, maintain the vision, and really, surround myself and the team with very talented individuals.
I know you will talk about like how digital assets are transforming the capital markets later on your Avalanche Summit speech. Can you reveal a little bit of that to our audience today?
Sure. The transformation is ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the early days. We are, some analogies are, if to baseball, which is popular in the United States, is we're not even on the field yet. We're on the way to the stadium. So it's very early days. But what I'm seeing is that the very large institutions like State Street, Bank of New York Mellon, Fidelity, have been in this space for the last couple of years. And the reason I know that is we've been talking to them. Now, they've been on the sidelines waiting for what I call a tipping point, but it's coming. Everybody realizes now digital asset securities, despite the grayness in the regulations, which is going to continue at least, frankly, I think in most of the globe, but certainly the US and the EU, it's definitely coming. I think in 5 years, digital asset securities, we're going to look back and say, why didn't we do this 10 years ago? Because the cost savings and the transparency, which helps regulators, is evident. It's there. So away from DeFi, so let's set DeFi apart now. Just the benefits of blockchain, cost savings, real-time data for the companies and the investors, transparency, lower costs. Mm-hmm. That's all on the surface of just utilizing the blockchain for digital asset security trades with KYC AML. So in 2008, in the United States, well, around the world, remember we had the Great Depression, right? Or recession, the Great Recession. And there was one of the largest companies in the world, AIG, which was an insurance company, it turned out had exposure that was many multiples beyond what anybody knew about globally. And it took months to figure that out because it was all in documentation. With smart contracts, that's how digital asset securities are set up with smart contracts. With smart contracts, all that information is easily available. That shouldn't ever happen again. And because of that, Lehman Brothers went down, my old firm Bear Stearns went down into JP Morgan. And blockchain will make transparency evident. So that's what's happening there.
As we know, the regulatory environments continue to change, and you are leading your team into the other areas. So what was the important first step to making this plan?
Well, we're spending a lot of money
definitely.
with the regulators and compliance. We're in dialogue with them in the United States all the time. Our plan globally is not to, what I say, have feet on the ground. We have partners. So we'll work with them to work with their specific sovereign nations, regulators. But we don't want to be leading that in the EU, the UK, through Gibraltar or the UAE. But it's a very gray environment. There are no answers at this point in time. I think, again, back to the US, I think what we're looking at is a continued grayness and uncertainty for the next 24 months. It's a long time. And but we're navigating, we're threading the needle in regards to working with them. And they want this to work, but it has to be compliant.
Oh.
So it's going to take time. But the KYC element, which most DeFi ultras really don't like, KYC AML. If you want to play in this digital asset security space and invest and be a part of it, you just have to accept that.
As we know, after a crackdown on cryptocurrency firm, the regulators turned their attention to the world of the DeFi. So what's the biggest challenge that people based in this field should be faced?
Yeah, so I can't name names, but we know, and we've spoken to almost all the major DeFi players that you would be familiar with, your audience would be familiar with. Several of them recognize that regulation is coming. Some deny it in their minds. They're like, this has worked out. We're going to be fine, right? And so I think that working with a group like us with the licenses is a smart move. So we partnering with us, because we're very compliance and regulatory forward, we can only assist these DeFi projects. And there are others like us. It's not just us, right? So that is a smart move. There are several very large DeFi players who are not doing that. They're saying, we're not going to go to the US market, or we're not going to go to the EU market, or, hey, that's fine, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. So my advice, what we've shared with people is, let's go down this route and see what we could do. There are attorneys advising their clients on both sides. So, eventually we'll see where it goes. But 3 years ago, and this goes back to Rune Christensen at Maker, he was thinking about regulation 3 years ago. He's one of the leading OGs in the DeFi space because he created it. Nobody was thinking about regulation 3 years ago. He was not as an area of focus, but as, hey, this might be coming, right? As an alternative. So we should be thinking about it. That's how I teamed up with them, right? Yeah. So I think it's only going to get more refined. And, if you embrace regulation, I know this sounds terrible because nobody wants to embrace regulation. It's not fun, right? But if you embrace it and understand it's a necessary evil, it's just something you have to do, then you can grow your business at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. I know the lessons is so important to running a company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think the increase in regulations is necessary things?
Well, it benefits us because think of it as a moat, around the castle. Mm-hmm. So the more regulation, the more important we are because we have all these licenses. So yes, do I think it's important? I'm a banker by background. So I worked at large institutions and it was all about compliance and regulation. So I grew up, my entire career has been with the regulatory area. Yeah. So I think it's important. Not across the board because, Bitcoin. Should Bitcoin be regulated? I don't think so because it's been out there for a number of years. DeFi has the aspect of securities, certain areas of DeFi. Fractionalization of art, NFTs, may be deemed as security. So you have to understand that. So if regulation is going to be a part of it, again, embrace it. Nobody likes regulation, but that's how you're, just to share with you, if I could leave this with the audience too. Okay, it's like handcuffs, regulation, KYC, AML, but then you become part of the mainstream because that's how everything else works, right? So once you become part of the mainstream, right now, digital asset securities are 0.0001% of the market, right? It's a $400 trillion market. If you look at real estate, private securities, public securities globally. If that moves to 10%, that's a huge number. It won't move to 10% of that market without KYC AML. So again, I think crypto will benefit. DeFi will benefit because we're thinking about adding DeFi as well to our ATS and our exchanges. At the end of the day, the whole market will grow. So yeah, I think it's important.
I think as well, because the regulations might be force the industry be more mature.
But that's going to take a while.
Yeah, true.
I think that's 10 years away. To get there, and that's exciting, right? Because that's all about growth and where we're heading.
As long as I know the cryptocurrency blockchains is gonna be part of our life. It's like an internet. Nobody's talk about internet, this stuff.
So I was a banker during the internet. Mm-hmm. The exact same thing happened in the internet. Because when the internet started, it was only, if you think about it, it was really newspapers, magazines, news.
It's all about paper.
It was all about taking away the paper and putting it on.
Yeah.
And now look at what the internet has become. So where we, the UI experience for trading stocks right now and crypto, we have to make that UI ubiquitous. So right now I trade stocks with, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Charles, whatever it may be, right? eToro. Yeah, I do those trades. But I just take my phone and I can do it. Eventually, we're going to do the exact same thing with digital securities, and the end user doesn't even know it's on the blockchain. And then they have these cool things like staking, yield farming, et cetera, that they can learn about and they can do as well. It's all about the UI,
Okay, so one more question, the last question but not least. Any tips you would like to share for the beginners or the new traders to how to filter out the scammers before they making their investment?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, I'll give one. Just go. Dip your toe. Do it. Don't wait, because you won't have perfect information ever. Scammers, I've been scammed. I got, and I've been in this for a while. It wasn't a lot, but a company I know said, hey, we want you to, invest in this. I sent some ETH, and it turned out not to be the company. So that happens. Stay away from that. Stay with the traditional opportunities. So Bitcoin, ETH, AVAX, which is Anchorage, the protocols. To me, that's where I would focus my time right now. MakerDAO. Maker's, way undervalued. And it's a fantastic platform, and there are a number of other tokens that have been out there for, I would say 4 years. I would focus on that. But really, if you're a beginner, Bitcoin ETH, invest a little every week. Don't look at the price. Just do it, because in 10 years it's going to be worth so much more than what you're buying now. So that, by the way, that's the advice I give friends, family, etc. Just a little, and then you get a little bored with that, Bitcoin and ETH, and then you start looking at protocols, Polygon, all these others. Do the same thing. A little invest here and there, because these are going to be sustainable. And Maker, a little bit, every time. But if you want to trade in and out, that's a full-time job. So I really can't tell you what to do there. Now, in regards to what we do, digital asset securities, when they come out, that'll be like stocks, bonds, structured products, yield-bearing instruments. That's very similar to what's available now, but it'll be on the blockchain. So that's a different level of diligence. So when that becomes more available, to partake in that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, it's terrific. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to leave your comment, like, and subscribe our channel. And we're so happy to have Pat for this interview today. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fantastic.
See you guys next time.
Bye.